some time. I want to, start a YouTube channel, kind of try to open up some dialogue about, things that go on in our society and things that go on with us personally, what have you, whether it's politics, religion, race, just, personal things, whatever it is. And but I want to give you an idea of who I am and where I'm coming from on things. So, I'm a biracial, guy in my late 40s. I've seen a lot of things. I was born in 1969, so I'm a child of the 70s and early to mid 80s. So I grew up in the time where we came out of the racial upheaval of the 60s, but it was still there. It just became more subdued, more hidden. It was more in the closet, and people didn't talk about it, or they talked about it behind your back. My dad, black man from Anderson, Indiana, grew up with a great mixture of friends. My mom, white woman, grew up in Elwood, Indiana. At the time, Elwood was one of the two big hotbeds of Ku Klux Klan activity in the state of Indiana, Evansville being the other. So, I was born in Anderson, my siblings and all. And so, we grew up in Anderson primarily, and fortunately, we grew up with Dad for the most part. And fortunately, that happened for us. He prepared us from the time we were able to reason. He told us that there were going to be people that were going to hate us because we were too black or we were too white, or more commonly, they were going to hate us because we were both. And I can't tell you how many times I nearly got into fights just because I wouldn't choose a race. I wouldn't choose one part of my heritage over another part of my heritage, one part of my family over another part of my family, and that angered some people. So, but Dad prepared us for that. He, prepared us for the idea that there would be hatred, but that wasn't our problem. Never internalize things that people say and do, because ultimately it's their problem with the way they were brought up, with the things they were taught, or the way they reason things through, and never be their victim. Other than, if somebody does something to you, you're a victim at that time. Something happened, it was out of your control, and and it might bother you for a short time, but he taught us to never wallow in that. Otherwise it becomes a kind of a personal choice at some point to remain stuck in that victimization. And he always told us that if you stay there, then you're allowing those people to victimize you over and over and over without even having to be there. And why give them that kind of power? So that's kind of the way that we were raised from his perspective. And then I also remember a junior high school social studies teacher that taught us about frame of reference, and one of the more valuable things that I ever learned, and that's that something can be a fact, but there are very few facts that we actually see that are so concrete that it looks the same from every angle. Most facts we only see from our own perspective, from the way we were raised, the things we've experienced. And so when we see a fact, we tend to put our own interpretation into it. And so for example, there could be a car accident, and you can have four different people standing on four different corners. They all see the exact same accident, but they all saw it from a different angle. Some of them saw some things that the person opposite them didn't see. And, some of them interpreted something they thought somebody, did leading up to the accident that maybe somebody else didn't see it that way at all. And that doesn't mean anybody was a liar. Doesn't mean anybody is, working on their own work of fiction. It just means that you're standing in four different places. You saw it four different ways. Then it becomes somebody's job, namely the police officer, to put together those four stories into the one story that was the actual fact. So, and that's kind of the way life is, whether it's race or religion or politics or what have you. Our own upbringing, our own life experiences, those are the things, they tend to color the way we see things. So I try as much as possible. Sometimes it's you get in the heat of the moment of something, you're arguing your point about something and you don't really think it through. But I always try at some point to pull back and think, what have they seen? What have they been through? Why do they see it this way? Because everything's not always cut and dry. And so that's kind of the angle I come from. Again, I've seen a lot of things from both perspectives, racially. The Ku Klux Klan burned a cross in our yard. When I was 10 years old, we went to school in Elwood for one day. A teacher and a student told me that day that it would be our only day there, and it was. And some people that were raised differently, that might have jaded them for maybe the rest of their lives. They may have hated white people for the rest of their lives. But we were already armed ahead of time for the fact that things like that not only could happen, but probably would happen, and that was their problem, not our problem. Don't live in it. So, and by the same token, I've also been on the side where I went into a mall in Anderson to buy some cool water cologne I used to use. And there was a hallway leading up to the perfume counter and cologne counter, and there was a black couple that was there well before I ever turned the corner to even see them. And I watched this clerk ignore them. I could see her look out of the corner of her eye and ignore them. And when I got up there, and by this time I had lost my hair. When I was young, I had a big old full J5 afro going. By my late 20s, I had started losing my hair and I shaved my head. And it was at this point that I went up there, and this same woman who had been ignoring them went around, walked right past them and came and asked me if she could help me. And I told her, said, no, these people were here before I ever came around the corner, and you deliberately ignored them. I watched you ignore them, so no, you can't help me, and I won't buy anything here again. And so I've seen it from both angles. So we've got a society these days, it seems like you got one side that thinks everything's racism, and another side that thinks nothing is racism, and somewhere in between lies the truth. And those are kind of things that I want to try to open up dialogues about, and respectful dialogues that can be passionate but respectful. But as things occur and it trips in my mind, that is something I want to talk about and maybe have a discussion about, and get so we can all get some things from different perspectives, different angles, and take those things in. That's kind of what I want to accomplish with these video blogs. So I'm starting to ramble on. I'll cut this off and watch my son's practice, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction to who I am and how I think about things. And I look forward to uploading some more videos and having some good dialogue, and again, respectful. It can be passionate but respectful dialogue, and maybe we can all learn some things from each other. So until then, again, my name's Micah Mitchell, and I look forward to dialoguing with you down the road. Thank you.